So the other day, I shared a video showing you guys some of the really cool ways you could use post-it notes to work on balance, whether you're sitting or doing it standing, with the post-it stuck on the wall. And I mentioned in that video, I kind of touched on the fact that you could also use post-it notes to work on what I like to call brain exercise, but working on some of those like cognitive thinking, processing skills, visual skills, right? And it's another thing that I do quite a bit with post-it notes because it's quick, it's easy, and you can do it pretty much anywhere. But I mentioned that it was a lot to kind of throw in with the video that was about primarily focusing on balance using post-its. So this is the video as promised that's going to kind of walk you through how you can use these post-it notes to work on those brain exercise thinking skills. So this is going to be for those of you who some of this you could probably facilitate for yourself if you do have that awareness and know that you need to work on some of those cognitive skills. But if you are a family member or a loved one of someone who's had a stroke and you know that they need to work on some of these um, cognitive thinking, processing skills, or if you're a therapist watching this and would like some cool and new different ways you can work on some of these things, these cognitive skills with your patients, then this is for you guys, okay? So some of the key skills that you can address and work on using post-it notes specifically for cognition are visual attention, inattention. You can kind of get a sense of if someone is having that visual neglect or is their neglect getting better. You can work on, you'll get a sense of for sure processing speed, reaction time. You can do working memory. Um, what else? Mental calculation is another good one. So one of the things that I mentioned in the other video, and I've said this before, it's really great when you can do activities and tasks that kind of tap into more than one thing at a time. And this is another one of those activities. So when you're working on, if you wanted to work on your cognition, but also tap into balance, you can do this just like I showed you in my other video where you've got the post-it notes spread out on the wall using numbers or letters. The person obviously is working on balance, but that's kind of a side benefit possibly at that point if your goal is now more the thinking, brain exercise stuff. So while they're standing, you've got your numbers or your letters on the wall, and then you are calling out the different letters that you want them to find, right? So if someone has visual inattention or neglect, you're going to get a sense of are they able to capture all of the targets that you've called out within the full visual field? Or are you noticing that there is some of the targets that you threw out there, they're missing, right? So if someone has a true neglect, left neglect or whatever side, are they leaving all of the ones on that side? They miss every single number that you called out on that left side or that number, or are they only missing some? If you're working in an area where there's some distractions, maybe not a ton, but some distractions to kind of test and flesh out how severe their visual inattention is. This can be a great thing to use for that. If you're using numbers, I love to use numbers. Now, again, for some people, this may be a higher level skill to tap into, but you use that judgment for yourself. But I love to have numbers, maybe numbers 1 through 10, or however much, even up to 20. I've done that before, and you have them spread out all over the table. Or if you're working on standing balance, you can as well. You can have it on the wall, and what you're going to do is say, um, what is the sum, or what is two? If you add 2 plus 2, what do you get? And so then they have to make that mental calculation and then also visually find that number on the table. So you say 2 plus 2, and then instead of answering you, their job is to then scan the table or scan the wall and tap the number 4. Or you can do 7 plus 8, 15. Same thing. You get the idea. So that's a really cool way to kind of work on some mental calculation. Another more higher level um, brain exercise task I love to do with numbers. And usually this one I'll do like numbers 1 through 9. And this is where I like to work on work what you call working memory. You know how sometimes if someone tells you a phone number, and they're like, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, whatever. You have to kind of, and they're just telling you, you don't have a pen, you have nothing to write it, you have nothing to write it down on. So you have to hold it in your mind long enough for you to get to the phone to dial the number. That's what our working memory does. That's one of the examples. Another example is, nowadays there's all these security features on everything. So say you're trying to log into something and they're like, cool, okay, well, I'm going to text you this 6-digit code or this 5-digit code or whatever. I think we've all been through that, right? So you try to, the code may pop up on your screen and you're trying to, unless you do write it down, but again, if you're trying to remember it, you're gonna try to hold it. Okay, 423-875, 423-875. Again, that's your working memory. Our brain has many different parts of, different memory components, right? That our brain is responsible for, short term, long term, working memory. So for working memory, this is a great one. You call out, and again, you can make it harder or easier based on your abilities or the person's abilities that you're working with. But maybe start with 2 numbers, 3 numbers, and you obviously can get up to phone number length, like up to 7 numbers. That's probably the ultimate challenge. But say 7, 8, 9. Well, maybe not. That's kind of easy, but you could do 3, 7, 3, 7, 9, right? And then you're watching to see, can they scan and find those numbers? Can they also scan, find the numbers, hold the correct numbers accurately in their mind long enough to then find them, hit the target? So I think you get what I'm saying. So that's another way you can tap into what we call mental calculation. Um, let's see, processing speed is just, and reaction time are kind of similar. It's kind of, you're basically looking at how long is it taking this person to process what you've asked, the directive that you've given them, and made, process and worked on the mental component of that, and then took action on what they're supposed to do or what they understand they're supposed to do. And this can be hugely telling, those of you, if you're watching this, if you're clinicians and you're, in the field now, working we're out there working with folks, that a lot of times, and not a lot, but sometimes after stroke, folks are going to be delayed. They've have some of their cognitive skills have been affected, and so you'll see some of that delay in processing. And again, I love using these post-it notes because it's not a real obtrusive way to look at some of these skills, because it seems and feels and can be presented more like, hey, this is just let's just do this quick thing. It's a game, and activity. It doesn't feel real daunting, like you're sitting down with a formal processing speed assessment or evaluation, and it can make people feel more on edge. But this, you can kind of just say, hey, just throw it in the midst of other things you're doing. We finished one thing, hey, let's let your legs rest, let's have a seat, let's work on I just always say brain exercise, let's work on some brain exercise. And then you can, as a family member, loved one, or a clinician from the outside looking in, what you're looking for. You're looking to see, like I said in the beginning, are you looking at more of that neglect? Are they visually scanning that full area that can kind of clue you into kind of what's going on there? Obviously, you have awareness of someone's neglect as they just move through their day to day, but this can be a more structured way of kind of tracking improvement. You know what I mean? And seeing like, okay, I remember in the very beginning, they would not get any of these numbers or any of these letters on this side. But you know what? Now they are. I mentioned numbers and letters a lot, but you can absolutely do color, right? So if you want to just go out and buy, obviously Post-its come in all different colors, but you can always use just paper too and just tape them down. If you don't have Post-its and aren't able to get out and buy the exact thing, you can completely adapt this to whatever you're able to actually get your hands on. But using colors is really good too, especially if, I mean, I like to use it too, a lot for neglect and attention, but more for that neglect. And when you're really trying to test out different strategies to help someone learn to fully scan to the side that they tend to miss. So in the beginning, start maybe with just real, keep it simple. Just have two colors. You maybe have blue post-its and green post-its. And again, it's all mixed up all over the table if you're having them do it sitting. Or again, if you want to do the standing as well to add another challenge to it and work on some balance, you could have all your blue and green post-its all over the wall. And then all you say is this: hand me or take off or take down or pick up all of the green, all of the green pieces. Just get all the green post-its, right? And that's it. And that right there will tell you a lot. And you will see immediately. I mean, obviously, you get that visual right away. Are they missing some of them? Or did they get them all? So again, this is just really, again, simple ways that you can get at a lot of different things. And another cool tip I have for you guys, if you're actually using post-it notes, and you want to extend the life of your post-it notes, like if you have the big square ones, a lot of times I will pull off a small stack, a chunk of them, and then I just take some scissors and I just cut it in half, and then I have my own little post-it strips. And then they're smaller because the size is not that important, and they'll last longer. So if that's something that helps you guys, definitely give that a try because it'll extend the life of your post-its. Okay. So whether you use your post-it notes for brain exercise sitting, whether you do it standing, whether you use numbers, letters, whether you have them try to spell words or do simple math, mental calculations, or working memory numbers, or visual scanning, neglect, and attention, just give it a try. I have found so much success using this over the years, and I just want to keep giving you guys things that you can easily utilize at home, and adapt based on whatever circumstance you're in. Okay, so please leave me a comment. Let me know if this is something maybe you guys have already tried or you've done something similar. And definitely, if you are needing and wanting some additional things that are going to help tap into more of improving memory, and some visual skills and things like that, because I know that, stroke is, we say it's a lot, but obviously no two strokes are alike. Everyone's going to experience it differently. And not everyone is going to have some of these challenges, but a lot of people do. And it's not talked about a ton, especially when there's so much focus on standing and walking and balance and getting back hand function, right? All of which is important, but it's all important. And I don't want us to forget about building the most important muscle of all that controls everything, and that is our brain. So again, if you want some more tips and tricks and things that you can do to improve and do more brain exercise at home, definitely leave me a comment, and let me know. All right, guys, as always, I really hope this was helpful, and I will see you next time. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to subscribe for more DIY videos to help you along the way in your stroke recovery. Struggling at home? Have a question? Leave me a comment. I'm here to help.